All right, let's go to work. I don't have a lot of time here for about a little over 10 minutes. I want to work with two things. I want to work with the text that you just worked with or listened to, Plymouth. I want to talk a little bit about that one. And as well, I want to try to get us ready for the page 109 writing assessment, which is coming again next week for the reading writing assessment packet. Let's begin by asking a very simple question. If yesterday the question was why slavery, today the question is a different question. It is the question of what we will call culture contact. So you want to write that in your notes. Culture contact. Now, Mr. Beck, when I use a phrase like that, what do I mean? Culture contact. Do you have any sense of what I'm talking about? Say it out loud. Outstanding. When two different, underline the word different, Mr. Barnard, that's important. When two different cultures come into contact for the first time. This is especially problematic if both cultures have had no experience at all of the other cultures. When two cultures come together. Yeah, you can kind of think of this in 2A. You got it. So we're working now with the idea of the very first and early contact between white English men and women on the one hand. That's one culture. And the other culture is what we will call the Native American. But that's not the term that gets used, noticed, in the text Plymouth. What's the term that gets used to qualify these native indigenous peoples? Indians. They're called Indians. Now that's a strange word even. Where does that word even derive from? Does anyone know?
They thought they were an Indian?
Yeah, there was an assumption. It's all screwed up geography. It's an assumption, right, that you're actually in a place called the Indies, which is a region of the world where a whole bunch of important spices and that kind of things derive. And they actually thought they were in a whole different part of the globe. In fact, they're thousands and thousands of miles away from the Indies, and yet they will call these people indigenous to this country Indians because they are thinking they are from the Indies. Of course, ultimately, this kind of appellation or title sticks, and many times the Native Americans are inappropriately called Indians. I mean, there is absolutely no reason to call them Indians. They have nothing to do with India at all, and yet they will kind of be called this. And even today, oftentimes, Native peoples are referred to as Indians, and of course, geographic mistakes kind of have their holdover, and this is the reason why they're called this. Let's talk, though, about the contact. We have contact that we have to think about going both directions. The easy way to ask this question, Mr. Barr, is this one. What were the three biggest challenges for those Europeans, especially those Englishmen, as they contacted the native indigenous peoples? So what were three really difficult challenges? You might jot down three real quickly. In your estimation, what were the big three? We always seem to think of it from that perspective. We rarely think of it from the other perspective. And so let's jot that one down. What are three difficulties in relationship to contact from the native peoples towards these invaders? Right? It's not like they were invited. No. It's not like somebody sent out a telegram and said, yo, we'd love to have you come and stay in our place. No. They were uninvited. You know, it's interesting. Those of you who are at all familiar with films that posit invaders from outer space. For example, we think about films like Battle Los Angeles. Is that the film? We think about a film like Battle Los Angeles, where invaders arrive unannounced. What is the immediate, Independence Day comes to mind. Notice we're working 3A now. What is the immediate response by an indigenous people when an outsider shows up? Do they normally assume, oh, yay? No. Right. The first instincts are to say, whoa. These are uninvited. They're probably here to invade. We have to respond with force. Right? Their protection sensors start going off big time. Mr. Beck, observation.
From the Native Americans for the
Say it again.
Like this is what the Native Americans would think?
That would make sense, wouldn't it, right? So the Native Americans are going to have a certain view, right, of what's going down. The English are going to have a certain view of what's going down, right? What do you find interesting about these two different groups of people when they meet for the first time? Reference the text Plymouth. What do you find most interesting about that culture contact when it happens for the first time? Let me ask it this way. Who is more confused about what's going on, do you think? Yeah. Of course, let's point out, this is a story told from which perspective? Right, from the English people's perspective, from the invaders' perspective, right? Wait a minute, where is the perspective about the native indigenous peoples? Where do we get to have that perspective? When do we get to read that perspective? Ah, Hunter says, yeah, I'm sorry, you don't get that perspective. What do you mean you don't get that perspective? What, these people didn't have a view? Oh no, they had a view. What? What are we saying? Ah, see, here's the thing. Let's put it in our notes. Winners write history. Am I right? The great philosopher Voltaire pointed this out. Winners write history. The people who win, they get to write the history. Correct? Of course, the native peoples, they didn't keep records the same way that, for example, we're going to have this record here. Correct? With that in mind, though, let's point out how the context evolved. First, a certain kind of response, then maybe a different kind of response. In the end, the relationship between these two cultures could have been, to some degree at least, good. Right? It could have gone well. How does it end up going in the end, though? To what degree is it a negative culture contact? It ends violent, doesn't it? Right? Why do you think so often when cultures collide, it ends up in war? Fighting. Right. There's a perception that maybe what we've got is what you want. So, what is oftentimes the outcome of these culture contacts if there is potential war? Peace treaties. Peace treaties. Much of the history of culture contact in the American historical experience is about these treaties. What is a treaty? An agreement. You got it. It's an agreement. In Plymouth, you have rules for an agreement. Right? Did you notice this? How would you qualify those rules? Is it even? Do both parties get something out of the agreement? Or do you see it as kind of lopsided to one side or to the other? See? You can kind of think about the way that the language is presented, correct? This is, of course, going to be problematic as we study American history because one of the questions that always will come up is, who violated the treaty? That's going to be an important question. Why? Why is that a big deal?
Which side should be punished for it?
More particularly, if you violate the treaty, then you no longer are a part of the treaty, and therefore the other side has the right to do what? To jack you. That's right, to jack you. So notice, if you want to violate the treaty and to take what the other side has, or do nasties to the other side, all you have to do is to prove that the other side did what? Broke the treaty first. The minute you can do that, you now have a legitimate right to go and take their stuff or to do nasties to them. When we study American history, then, this is one of those tensions. And hello, it doesn't go away so easy. This tension remains a tension right up until today. There are many native peoples who still say, our land was taken from us and treaties were violated and we didn't violate them. The other side violated the treaty. To which, of course, the response often is, oh, no, that's a misreading of history. The other side, the native peoples, they did violate the treaty, and that's why we had the right to take their land. They signed the treaty just like we signed it. See how it's back and forth? See, it's still a deeply, deeply divisive issue in American thought. Notice, as in the conversation of slavery, I'm trying to point out to you all perspectives, right, on the topic, right? as we begin to kind of think about this issue of culture context. Now I want to turn, and I want to look at page 109 real quickly, because this is the writing assessment for us that's coming. Am I right? And in my final minutes remaining, I want to help you to outline. You should have your annotation of page 109 in front of you now. I want to help you learn how to read a prompt. Good writers understand the assigned topic, and then they can construct a good outline, and then they can construct a well-written essay. As you're looking on page 109, look at it with me now. Notice, notice how at the very top we have some introductory information. Many of you are making the mistake, can I say this without insult? Many of you are making the mistake of jumping right to the question. Dude, I just got to get this written. I need to, wait. Instead of jumping right to the question, where do I find the question on this page, by the way? Where?
Paragraph.
Underneath what words? Writing to evaluate. That is your prompt. That is the question. But before you go there, we're not going to do it now. You want to read through the information that comes before. Got me? Then we look at the actual question. Now I'm going to help you with the question. I'm not even going to read it out loud. I'm just going to help you with it. Starting on page 68 and the text law, you have a series of readings. You must choose one of those readings. You must choose one of those readings. Okay? So in other words, you're going to look at these texts. Law, starting on page 70. Interesting, starting on page 80. General, starting on page 90. Or Plymouth, starting on page 100. You're going to choose one of those four readings. Only one. You're going to choose what you consider to be the strongest or the best reading. You could think of it this way, Ms. Cottrell. Which of those four readings did you find most affected you, that you liked the best? Okay? You're going to choose one. Then you're going to write three. See, I'm helping you outline already, right? Then you're going to write 3 reasons why you thought it was the strongest text. Does that make sense, Ozzy? 3 reasons why you thought it was the strongest text. Now, notice at the bottom of page 109, you have 3 bullet points there. Notice that you can consider which one had the greatest impact on you. That is to say, the one that maybe disturbed you the most. Mr. Beck.
Could each bullet point be a different POV?
Each bullet point could be a different POV. But think about this. 3 reasons why you chose law. 3 reasons why you chose interesting. 3 reasons why you see you're going to choose one of those. Notice the next bullet point asks you to think about descriptive details, images, dialogue. Any of that stuff maybe helped you to decide which one was the most powerful. The last one, well, writers' personal feelings and opinions and how they add to, for example, your understanding and interest on the topic. So here's the point, though, I want to make, and you need to write this down. I don't care which one you pick. There's no one right answer. But what's important is that you, write this down, use text to validate. I'll say this again. Use text to validate. If you don't provide quotes in your points of validation from the text that you're working with, then your score is not going to be so good. Again, you're writing 5 paragraphs. Each one of your topic sentences will be one reason why you think this is the strongest text. Okay? By the way, let's not say the text I like the most. Let's rather say the text that you found strongest. Okay? Does that make sense? But in your intro paragraph, you want to mention all 4 titles. Right? Because you're selecting 1 from 4. Does that make sense? All right, I will see you guys back tomorrow. Thank you.